Hey, this is Doug Field along with my co-host Ron Bachman, and welcome back to this segment of Healthcare Consumerism Radio, where we're going to get into a discussion on a very topical subject, private exchanges. And joining us to lead that discussion with us today is Mike Sullivan, co-founder and executive vice president and the chief marketing officer for Digital Insurance, which is one of the industry's largest, most technology-advanced employee benefit-only agencies. Hey, Mike, good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Hey, give our audience, we want to get into talking about private exchanges with you and get your perspective, but give our audience kind of a brief background on digital insurance and also digital benefit advisors.
So digital today has two divisions of the company. One is Digital Benefit Advisors, which is a middle market focused employee benefits agency operation around the country. And Digital Insurance is effectively an outsourced solution where we assist agencies all over the country to streamline and more efficiently manage small business. So we've become a fairly significant enterprise operating in about 35 states around the country with about 500 or so employees, really focused on employee benefits across the board. That's what we do.
Great. A lot of discussion about private exchanges. You're right in the middle of that. Give us kind of your perspective on where you see the exchange discussion going as it relates to large, small, and mid-sized employers.
So I'm very excited about the opportunity presented by the private exchange framework. You know, in some ways, I view it as a gateway from the current employer-based employer sort of decides everything type of employee benefit solution, health insurance solution, to more of a consumer-centric model downstream, where the employer can still participate and organize and do diligence around building a benefits program, but is really creating an opportunity for private exchanges to reach through the employer down to the individual consumer level. And I think begin to really fundamentally reshape the way health insurance works, the way health care works, and that's probably what I'm most excited about. It's not for all employers, but I think it's a key component of how the system is going to organize itself in the future, and it's pretty exciting.
Mike's Ron Bachman here. Can you give us an understanding from your perspective what's happening in the smaller group marketplace? We hear more about the larger groups putting the retirees into exchanges. What's happening with active employees, both at the large employer size and then at the small employer size?
Well, we're today very much focused on the small and mid-sized employer. I think to your point, most of the energy and headlines to date have been around retiree populations, or really the largest employers in the country who are being largely managed by the largest consulting firms in the country, had been beginning to sort of shape the private exchange marketplace, really at the upper end of the marketplace. I don't think that's very surprising. I think that the most well-capitalized advisors have been shaping the space up market where most of their clients are. I think at the end of the day, private exchanges, who sticks and who doesn't, it's a volume game, and carriers want to basically work with and through private exchanges that can drive volume of membership. And so I think it'll start up market like it has and then flow down to small and mid-sized employers. I actually think the interesting thing is you could make the case that progress thus far in the private exchange market upstream is probably where the least amount of impact will be felt. We're very much focused on creating leverage in the marketplace from a pricing standpoint at the small and the mid-sized employer. And it's tougher sledding in that regard, but I think it's where the single largest opportunity presents itself. It's 8 or 9 out of every 10 employers in the marketplace, and I think the firms that can figure out the small and mid-sized market have a tremendous opportunity because most of the largest advisors and consultants are really focused up market. So it's going to be an interesting it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, Mike, I concur with you. I'm coming back from a meeting with a private exchange player, to go unnamed, and been talking to quite a few of them lately, like yourself. And I think the eyeballs are turning to the 100 and 2,500 employee-based market, because there's a belief that that's where the most help can be provided, going back to your vision on the model, where that employer does want to still provide that health care benefits and health solution to their employees. But how do they do it in the most efficient ways? And private exchanges are emerging as that opportunity, particularly when married with defined contribution.
Yeah, totally agree. I will tell you that in conversations that I've had, in conversations that our teams have had across the country, in focus groups that we've listened to, I think it's pretty clear. I think employers are very much, they feel a responsibility in this equation. But really what we're hearing is they want to participate. They don't want to own every decision relating to product configuration and how everything needs to be managed downstream. And that, to me, is why we really look at the private exchange as an opportunity for the employer to still participate, for the employer to still organize and help finance. But it's the ability to reach through the employer down to the consumer. That's really the tremendous opportunity here. If we can activate the consumer, and you guys talk about this all the time, but if we can reach through, it's going to take software, it's going to take call center capability. You can look to other aspects of the financial services industry to see what this is going to ultimately look like. But if we can get in there and end up helping to create a more informed, engaged, empowered consumer who really demands a better, more efficient system, I think that's we have our opportunity to affect change now, and I think the private exchange could be a catalyst to make that happen. I kind of view it as this is our chance to affect change. We need to get it right.
Mike, in any transformation that goes on, and clearly exchanges is part of a major movement and shift in the whole marketplace, the delivery system, there's a lot of players that usually start off, but then there's consolidation of the industry. Where do you see that happening? How is it happening? Is it starting to happen already? And what's the effect on the consumer that may be buying a product through one exchange and they either stop being in exchange or get bought out by somebody else? What's happening in your view, and where are we going with potential consolidation?
Well, look, I think that any time you have an industry, we look at this pretty simply. Healthcare reform has got everyone at the table understanding the system's going to be different. So I think hospitals and doctors are going to get squeezed. I think carriers are going to get squeezed. And I think anybody who is an intermediary in the channel, whether you call yourself an agent, a broker, an advisor, whether you call yourself an exchange, whatever the case may be, scale and efficiency and operational scope are going to become critically important. And if you think about it, we have a very fragmented distribution, organization today around the country. I think you're seeing wide-scale consolidation among brokers and agents. You're seeing consolidation in the software solutions as the software side of it begins to consolidate. So I don't know what the number is in terms of how many private exchanges we end up with. I think employers will do diligence and consumers will do diligence on which provide the greatest level of value. It's early in the game, but you're not going to see hundreds of private exchanges around the country. I think it will be tens of exchanges probably. And we're very focused on going after the end of the marketplace that most of the well-capitalized firms aren't. There's a reason, really, if you look at the life cycle of digital, we decided to align with a Fortune 500 company because our view was we need access to capital to build for the future. But the system's going to look very different, and efficiency is going to become increasingly important. Our future as an advisor is more work for less pay, so you better figure out how to organize yourself differently, deal with consolidation, and so I think that's going to be a continued trend, and if anything, it probably accelerates. But flow between exchanges, I think, is something that the system will work itself out. So we just got to.
So what are the three keys to being most successful as an exchange?
Ultimately, I would say today that if you can scale to the point of relevancy, I think that's I think the early, in the first year or two, you have to get big enough to matter. You need to get big enough to survive. Mm-hmm. After that, I really think it becomes about service at both the employer level and at the consumer level. The exciting part, it's sort of like be careful what you ask for, you might get it. Mm-hmm. Consumers are all of a sudden going to be thrust into the equation, but they're ill prepared for the employer freeing up the reins for people to make more decisions. So we really need to understand how to reach through and get to the consumer. But the entire system is today organized around the employer. So the companies and the intermediaries, I think, that find a way to engage at that level, I think it involves software. I think it involves call center capability. But ultimately, I think the service experience is what's going to delineate the winners from the losers, and that's really what we're focused on as an organization, the client experience.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you, Mike. Listen, we got about a minute to go. I mean, time flies here when we're having fun, and it's been a very good discussion. We'll have to have you back on, too. But leave our audience with a couple clear takeaways from your seat, please.
Well, I think ultimately, as an industry, we are educating ourselves on private exchange. So probably the most, I say this to our teams across the country every day, you got to get a glove and you got to get in the game and you got to figure out what these private exchanges are all about. You have to begin to understand the differences between the solutions in the marketplace. I think you got to look beyond the software piece of the equation to understand product choice and who ultimately is going to be able to deliver a client service experience that works. But anybody, whether you're at the employer level, the advisor level, even on the carrier side, everyone's trying to figure it out. So we need to learn, adapt, and evolve in this space quickly. But you got to get in and start making that happen.
All right. Well, Mike, listen, appreciate the discussion today. Have a great weekend. And walk across the street and join us tomorrow. We'd love to have you join us at Forum next week and join in this discussion.
Appreciate the opportunity, guys, and we'll definitely have people there.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks
take
a lot.
care.
Bye-bye.
To our audience, stay tuned for the next segment, Healthcare Consumerism Radio.